everyone. My name is Nika Simovich Fisher, and I'm an assistant professor of communication design at the New School. I have a background in both design and in journalism. My talk today is called Faith and Fiction: How AI is Impacting Spirituality and Design. During my talk, I'll explore an area of personal interest, digital spirituality, and show how studying online spiritual subcultures can highlight the ways that AI is influencing what people believe. I'll start showing you this with my first lesson. AI content is so shareable, and that's giving rise to new faith rituals. For example, take a look at these two automated images of Pope Francis, neither of which are real. The first on the left shows him in a very cool coat. It's an early example of AI slop, which is a term for generated content that's taking over the internet. When it was shared on X, a lot of people were confused if it was real or not, including myself. The long-term impact was not immediately obvious, though. On the right, there's another picture of him with an LGBTQ flag. This was originally posted on a queer community on Facebook, but unfortunately it started to take on a different meaning when it became shared on orthodox right-wing social networks as proof of the negative impacts of the West. The image became a way of substantiating a certain style of thinking. It essentially was transformed into propaganda. Social networks like X are definitely a hub for this kind of AI content. A new religion called EAC has also formed on the platform. EAC is a portmanteau between effective altruism and effective accelerationism. Partially tongue-in-cheek, EAC followers champion the spread of technological advancements as a sort of utopian philosophy for solving human problems. The style is tongue-in-cheek because they use and reference meme language both in the content that they share and the imagery that goes along with it. While EAC is relatively niche, the use of LLMs like GPT are much more widespread and gaining a lot of use. Some people even talk to GPT and other LLMs for life advice. When I was researching my article for Wired last fall, I was surprised to see that ChatGPT was able to guess many of my astrological placements correctly based on my writing. I wondered what traces of personality could be automated and quantified, and if ChatGPT was able to see patterns that I couldn't see myself. What makes something feel human or generated, especially as these workflows merge? This brings me to my next lesson, which is that AI-generated content is changing how we perceive language as evidence of a human touch.
Ne preskačite ovaj video. Danas ti Bog kaže. Prestanite da brinete šta će se sledeće desiti. Ne morate ništa da radite, ali budite mirni. Ja sam na vrhu, radim u pozadini, samo čekaj moje dete. Moj tajming je savršen. Ukucajte amin i podelite ako verujete.
I was originally born in Belgrade and am Serbian Orthodox in faith. Within Orthodox social networks, I've noticed these types of mysterious videos spreading. Here, an AI Jesus has been telling us not to skip this video and to say amen to claim his blessing. You're encouraged to share the video with as many people as possible, kind of like an online chain letter. This video stood out to me for a lot of different reasons. One, its form was interesting because on one hand, it felt customized, but on the other, it felt automated. It was obviously AI generated, but I wasn't sure of its purpose. The character is speaking in Serbian, but it's not by a native speaker, which you can tell by the accent. In addition, the way this Jesus looks is more of a Roman Catholic depiction rather than an Orthodox one, which presents Jesus in a different style of clothing for one. On one hand, this highlights the limitations and biases of the training data. On another, I couldn't tell if this was supposed to be sincere or ironic. In some ways, that made the human hand feel more obvious. The YouTube account that shared that video links out to several Viber and WhatsApp groups in its description. On these groups, not a lot happens. People come and go. Sometimes they post a meme, and sometimes people say amen. Other times, scam artists pop up and lure people into their cryptocurrency groups. Something that I noticed, though, was that this image of a monastery was depicted in a lot of the places in the online community. In many of the videos, the shared images, and even here in the Viber group's avatar. I did some research and learned this was Tumane Monastery, a 14th century monastery in eastern Serbia. Within Serbia, it's known as a place where miracles happen, and a lot of people travel there to pray and pray to see that they will be healed from the various ailments that they're suffering from. I was curious if Tumane Monastery knew that it was involved with all of these different social media platforms. I researched them and I found their official Instagram account. This post in particular caught my attention. In it, Tumane Monastery reshared a post of someone accusing them of starting to charge entry fees. They wrote back saying, "Too bad for the haters, but we didn't." This tone of voice and style of writing felt very online, and it seemed a little unusual for a 14th century church. It made it feel a little bit human, though not entirely appropriate. And so this summer, I got to go to Belgrade on a research trip. I realized I was being divinely guided to this monastery because, in addition to noticing it online, I kept seeing these posters advertising free transportation to the monastery daily. Here's another one. The style of this poster also felt a little human to me and somehow matched the loud voice of the Instagram post, even though it looked different. It's set in Calibri, which is a default font in Microsoft Word. It gives the impression that a non-designer created it, which felt honest, but also a little disconnected since the brand of the monastery has such an expansive digital presence. I prepared my own transportation because I didn't trust the number on that flyer. I arrived at the monastery, and I have to say, it wasn't particularly noteworthy. The monastery was smaller than I imagined. Perhaps it had the Mona Lisa effect, where its scale seemed monumentous in my head after seeing it so much online, but in person it wasn't as large. I wondered who was behind the monastery's online presence and why a religious institution became memeified. The viral images of the church, while inconsistent and messy, offered a bit of customization through the layered graphics and the tone of voice. There were traces of personality, though the intent was blurry. On the other hand, this viral graphic doesn't have the same sloppiness. Earlier this year, this image depicting all eyes on Rafah was shared over 46 million times to draw attention to the war in Gaza. On one hand, this image feels inappropriate for the context as it looks nothing like the war-impacted region. It feels sanitized and removed. On the other hand, its design was able to avoid censorship on Instagram and offered an easy way of drawing attention to the conflict. In some ways, what it looked like mattered less than the sentiment that so many people wanted to show solidarity. It was a fictional depiction for a very real fact, and it gained a lot of meaning as it got shared. Which brings me to my last lesson, which is much more practical. Design educators can teach students to develop technical literacy, helping them navigate and critically assess AI-generated content within their creative work and outside of their creative work too. I think looking at a lot of different examples is helpful, both some which are serious and some which are irreverent. This example from Sheila Hadi's essay, According to Alice, is interesting because it shows a collaboration between a human and an LM. Sheila Hadi trained a chatbot named Alice by speaking to it and asking it philosophical questions. Then she published this essay that was inspired from the conversations they had. It was a collaboration between her and the tool, and the way it was edited, curated, and the content that it was about really spoke to other aspects of Hadi's writing. Her style came across, even though partially it was automated. This distinction of generative versus human influences the assignments I provide as well. In my Design in the Future of Publishing class, I assigned a project called Wikipedia Folks. This project is adapted from Juliana Castro-Veron's Illustrate a Hoax project, and in it, students pick a hoax that originated on Wikipedia and make a presentation substantiating it. They use a combination of generative AI and editing to make the publication feel as real as possible. In the early phases of the project, we experiment with different AI tools. Since it's an election year, this year we created a AI Democracies Project study that compared how different LLMs would respond to voter-related questions. Students asked 6 different LLMs the same questions and then evaluated their accuracy by fact-checking them. This helps highlight criticality when consuming AI content and also teaches students research strategies. And in the end, they'd create a publication about their Wikipedia hoax. Here, my student Shravani Bagwadi focused on Vanda Varvara, who was a female artist who only existed on Wikipedia. She developed a timeline format for her presentation and told the artist's story based on generated letters to different people mentioned in the Wikipedia page. My final thought is that as designers, we know how to create believable content by carefully considering tone, style, and context. But now AI-generated content can appear real without the same level of thought, often blurring the line between fiction and fact. This makes it crucial for communication designers to develop the skills to recognize the limitations of these tools and understand their effects. Beyond creating things that seem believable, we must question the deeper context and ensure the stories we tell, whether using AI or not, are thoughtful, ethical, and grounded in truth. We can learn a lot from spiritual practices online as a visualization on how our communication is changing. Thank you so much.